The first anomaly appeared in the Vatican's financial records. A simple discrepancy that any other day might have been attributed to human error caught the attention of Dr. Sarah Chen, not because of what it was, but because of when it occurred. The timestamp matched similar irregularities she'd been tracking across global banking networks for the past 3 months. The xenobiologist-turned-data analyst leaned back in her chair, her office in the United Nations Extraterrestrial Research Division, illuminated only by the glow of multiple monitors. She'd been ridiculed 6 months ago for suggesting that first contact wouldn't come with ships in the sky, but through our networks. Now, staring at the evidence, she wished she had been wrong. System: compile temporal matches for financial anomalies between March and June. Correlate with unusual network traffic patterns, she commanded. The AI assistant began processing as she reached for her secure phone. It was time to call Commander Rivera. Marcus Rivera had been heading the newly formed Extraterrestrial Defense Initiative for exactly 2 years, though most of the world still thought he was running a cybersecurity think tank. The EDI had been established after the first hints of artificial signals were detected at the edge of our solar system, signals that disappeared too quickly to be natural. "Tell me you're calling with good news, Chen," Rivera's voice came through, tight with tension. They'd known each other long enough to skip pleasantries. "Define good," Sarah replied, watching as new data points appeared on her screen. "I can tell you we're not paranoid. They're here, and they've been here for months. The question is why they're being so subtle about it." Rivera's silence spoke volumes. They'd gamed out dozens of first contact scenarios, but infiltration hadn't topped their list. Most species advanced enough for interstellar travel would logically have little need for subterfuge against a less developed civilization. "Show me," he said finally. Sarah pushed her findings to his secure terminal. "Look at the pattern. They're not just probing our systems, they're learning how we think. Each intrusion adapts to our security measures in ways that suggest they're not just breaking in. They're studying our problem-solving methods." "A psychological assessment," Rivera muttered. "They're evaluating us as a species." "Precisely. And given the focus on financial and resource management systems, I'd say they're particularly interested in our infrastructure and logistics capabilities." Sarah pulled up another dataset. "But here's where it gets interesting. They're making mistakes. Small ones, but consistent. Their algorithms don't account for human irrationality." Rivera's laugh was harsh. "Finally, an advantage to our species being completely unpredictable." But Sarah wasn't smiling. "Marcus, these intrusions, they're too precise to be exploratory. This is military intelligence gathering. Whoever they are, they're not here for peaceful first contact." The commander's voice turned grave. "How sure are you? Remember that pattern recognition software we developed after the Bangalore incident? I've been running it against these anomalies. The behavioral signatures match pre-invasion intelligence gathering. They're mapping our capabilities, our responses, our weaknesses. For an invasion?" Rivera asked, though they both knew the answer. "No," Sarah said, pulling up one final dataset. "For conscription. Look at the focus areas: military training facilities, manufacturing centers, population demographics. They're not trying to conquer us. They want to recruit us." The silence that followed was heavy with implications. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, imagining everything from benevolent teachers to conquering armies. Nobody had considered the possibility of being drafted. "How long?" Rivera asked. "Based on the escalation patterns, we have maybe 2 weeks before they drop the pretense. They're being thorough, but their timeline is accelerating. 2 weeks to prepare for an alien force that can cross interstellar space and infiltrate our most secure networks." "Fantastic." Rivera's sarcasm barely masked his concern. "Recommendations." Sarah had been preparing this answer since she first spotted the pattern. "We let them think they've succeeded. Their careful approach suggests they want to minimize disruption, probably to preserve whatever they value about our species. We can use that. Let them believe their infiltration worked, that we're as primitive as they assume, while we prepare a response they won't expect. Rivera finished. Because they're not seeing all of us, are they? They're seeing what they want to see. Exactly. Their intrusions focus on formal systems, military, financial, governmental. They're missing the human element. Art, culture, innovation. They don't understand how we think, how we adapt. They're studying us like we're machinery, not people. Rivera was quiet for a moment, thinking. We need to bring in the council. Quietly. And Sarah, we need options. Real ones. If they've got the technology to reach us, they've got the technology to destroy us. Already working on it. Their code. It's advanced, but it's rigid, predictable. They're so far ahead of us technologically that they've lost something we still have, creativity. They don't improvise well. Sarah pulled up another analysis. Every time our systems do something unexpected, there's a delay before they adapt. They're running everything through decision matrices. We still think on our feet. You think that's enough of an advantage against an interstellar civilization? Sarah thought about the history of warfare on Earth, about how often the technologically superior force had been surprised by their primitive opponents. It'll have to be. But Marcus, we need to move fast. Their learning algorithms are getting better. The longer we wait, the smaller our window of opportunity becomes. Understood. I'm calling an emergency council meeting. 1 hour. Bring everything you've got. Rivera paused. And Sarah, good work. I know most people thought your department was a waste of resources. Most people think aliens would land on the White House lawn. Sarah replied dryly. Most people watch too many movies. After ending the call, Sarah stared at her screens, watching as more anomalies appeared in global systems. Somewhere up there, an advanced civilization was preparing to forcibly recruit humanity into. What? A war? An expansion? Whatever it was, they thought they were being clever and subtle. They didn't realize they were making the same mistake so many others had made throughout human history, underestimating humanity's capacity for paranoia, adaptation, and sheer stubborn resistance. She almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Sarah began preparing her presentation for the council, her mind already racing with possibilities. Humanity was about to be dragged into something bigger than itself, ready or not. But if there was one thing humans did well, it was turning bad situations to their advantage. The aliens thought they were being subtle. They thought they were dealing with primitives who would be easily manipulated and controlled. They were about to learn what so many others had learned throughout history. There's nothing more dangerous than a human being backed into a corner. And humanity. Humanity was about to show the galaxy why you should always be careful what you wish for. As she worked, a quote from an old military historian flickered through her mind. The most dangerous enemy is not the one with the most advanced weapons, but the one who learns to use your own weapons against you. The aliens were about to learn that lesson the hard way. The Nixian ships appeared exactly 13 days after Sarah Chen's discovery. They didn't bother with the traditional power centers, no hovering over New York or Beijing. Instead, they positioned themselves above Earth's largest data centers, manufacturing hubs, and military installations, a show of force that demonstrated just how thoroughly they'd mapped humanity's infrastructure. They're not even trying to hide their intentions anymore, Rivera muttered, standing in the underground command center that had been hastily established beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility's screen showed feeds from around the world, each displaying the same scene. Massive crystalline vessels hanging in the sky like dark stars. Sarah studied the nearest display, watching as one of the ships used some kind of energy beam to simply remove a section of the Siberian tundra, leaving behind a perfectly spherical crater. No, they're not. That was a message. They can reshape our planet at will. The global response had been exactly what their visitors expected. Panic, confusion, and ultimately, submission. After all, What choice did a pre-FTL civilization have when confronted with a species that could literally reshape continents? But that was exactly what they were counting on. Status report, Rivera demanded, addressing the room of specialists who had been preparing for this moment for the past 2 weeks. Dr. James Wong, head of the Reverse Engineering Division, spoke first. Their technology is exactly as advanced as we feared. Those ships are using some form of gravitational manipulation we can barely detect, let alone understand. But, he paused, allowing himself a small smile. Their communications are surprisingly straightforward. Quantum encryption, yes, but the underlying protocols are almost elegant in their simplicity. They value efficiency, Sarah added. Every system we've analyzed shows the same pattern. Advanced, but rigid, predictable, which makes them vulnerable, Rivera concluded. Continue. Dr. Amira Hassan from the behavioral analysis team stepped forward. The psychological profile is complete. They're hierarchical, highly organized, and absolutely convinced of their superiority. Classic empire builders. They don't just want soldiers. They want to reshape us in their image. The main screen flickered, displaying the message that was now being broadcast to every device on Earth. The Nixian ultimatum was concise. Earth would join their empire as a protectorate, providing troops and resources for their ongoing war against the Helios Federation. In return, they would receive guidance and advancement. The alternative was extinction. They're offering us the chance to evolve, Sarah said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. How generous of them. Rivera turned to the final member of the core team. General Maria Santos, the highest-ranking military officer privy to their true plans, had been quietly coordinating with armed forces around the world. Are we ready? Santos nodded grimly. Phase 1 is in place. Every major military installation is prepared to put on exactly the show they expect. They'll see exactly what they want to see. A primitive species scrambling to comply with their new master's demands. And the real preparations, proceeding according to plan. The underground facilities are fully operational. The distributed manufacturing network is in place. Most importantly, the quantum monitoring system Dr. Chen designed is working perfectly. We'll know every move they make. Sarah stepped forward, pulling up her latest analysis. We've identified their first planned deployment. They're going to demand a contingent of Earth's finest warriors for training. They'll expect us to send our most elite special forces operators. And we will, Rivera said with a thin smile. Along with a carefully selected group of engineers, hackers, and scientists disguised as support personnel. People who can think creatively, adapt quickly, and most importantly, understand how to learn their technology without letting on how much they're learning. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They were about to commit Earth's first acts of interstellar espionage. What about the Helios Federation? Someone asked. Are we sure picking a side in an alien war is our best option? We're not picking a side, Rivera replied. We're playing both sides. The Nixians think they're recruiting us. What they're actually doing is giving us access to advanced technology, tactical data, and most importantly, contact with their enemies. Sarah brought up another display, this one showing her analysis of the Nixian war machine. Their conflict with the Helios Federation has been going on for centuries. Both sides are technologically matched, leading to a stalemate. They're not recruiting us because they need our primitive weapons or tactics. They need innovation, Rivera finished. Their society is so structured, so rigid, that they've lost the ability to think outside their established patterns. They're hoping that by introducing a primitive species into the mix, they'll gain an unpredictable element that might break the stalemate. And they will, General Santos said with a predatory smile. Just not in the way they're expecting. The meeting continued well into the night, finalizing the details of humanity's response to their would-be masters. On the surface, Earth would capitulate, accepting its role as a new protectorate of the Nixian Empire. Military forces would be reorganized according to Nixian protocols. Resources would be redirected to support the war effort. But beneath the surface, a different kind of war machine was gearing up. One built not on superior technology or overwhelming force, but on humanity's greatest weapons: adaptability, creativity, and the absolute refusal to be anyone's pawns. As Sarah left the command center hours later, she passed a group of young officers reviewing Nixian technical data. One of them looked up at her with a question in his eyes. "They think they're uplifting us," she said, answering the unasked question. "But you know what they don't understand about humans. We don't need anyone to teach us how to climb. We just need a reason to reach higher." The officer nodded, turning back to his work with renewed determination. Above them, Nixian ships continued their silent vigil, their crews confident in their complete control of the situation. They had no idea that their perfect plan, their carefully calculated recruitment of a primitive species, was about to backfire in spectacular fashion. They thought they were gaining cannon fodder. Instead, they were creating their own worst nightmare: humans with access to advanced technology and a grudge. The war was about to change in ways neither the Nixians nor the Helios Federation could possibly predict. The Nixian training facility orbiting Jupiter's moon Europa was a marvel of engineering, a crystalline structure that housed over 10,000 troops from various subjugated species. Now, it also contained its first contingent of humans. Among them was Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, officially listed as a combat medic. Unofficially, she was one of Earth's leading experts in xenobiology, handpicked by Dr. Chen for this mission. Maya kept her expression carefully neutral as she studied the basic medical equipment she was being trained to use. The Nixian medical officer, a tall crystalline being named Verix, was explaining the operation of a cellular regenerator with the kind of patience reserved for teaching a child to use a spoon. "The interface is simplified for species of your development level," Verix explained, mandibles clicking. "You need only press here and—" "What about the quantum field harmonics?" Maya interrupted, her fingers already dancing across the control panel. "If you adjust the resonance frequency, wouldn't it improve regeneration speed for carbon-based life forms?" Verix froze, multiple eyes blinking in succession. "How did you? That's an advanced concept. Your species shouldn't even understand quantum field theory." Maya cursed internally at her slip but recovered quickly. "Oh, I was just thinking about how our own primitive healing methods work." Lucky guess. The lie seemed to satisfy Verix, who filed it away as another example of humans' occasional surprising intuition. What the Nixian didn't realize was that Maya had already completely mapped the device's operating system, identified 3 ways to improve its efficiency, and transmitted the data back to Earth using the quantum entanglement communicator disguised as a standard-issue medical badge. Similar scenes were playing out across the facility. Humans, supposedly learning the basics of advanced technology, were instead comprehensively analyzing everything they encountered. Their primitive brains, evolved to find patterns and solve problems, were perfectly suited to understanding and improving upon the rigid, efficiency-focused designs of their supposed superiors. Back on Earth, Sarah Chen was compiling the flood of data from their embedded operatives. "It's better than we hoped," she reported to Commander Rivera in their secure underground facility. "The Nixians are so convinced of their superiority that they're practically giving us their technical manuals. They think they're teaching us to use their tools. They don't realize we're learning to remake them." Rivera studied the holographic display showing the latest intelligence and the bacterial weapon, already in testing. Maya confirmed our theory. Their crystalline biology is surprisingly vulnerable to certain Earth-based bacteria. Nothing lethal, but we can definitely incapacitate their troops if needed. Sarah pulled up another report. "But that's not even the most interesting part. Look at this." The display shifted to show combat training footage. Humans, using their primitive combat techniques, were consistently outmaneuvering Nixian troops in simulated battles. The aliens' superior technology and strength, meant nothing against unpredictable, adaptive tactics that didn't follow their carefully calculated combat algorithms. They think we're struggling to learn their advanced combat forms, Sarah explained, but we're actually teaching them something they've forgotten: the art of improvisation. Every loss is carefully calibrated to look like luck or desperation, while we're actually mapping their response patterns. And the Helios Federation? Rivera asked. Any contact? Sarah smiled. Better than contact. Remember those defective communication units our troops reported? The ones that kept picking up random transmissions. The Helios Federation has been watching. They've seen how we fight, how we think. 3 days ago, they made indirect contact. She brought up a decoded transmission. They're interested in our potential as allies. They've never seen anyone adapt to Nixian technology so quickly, even if they think we're doing it clumsily and by accident. Rivera leaned back, considering the implications. So both sides think they're manipulating us, while we're actually playing them both, Sarah finished. The Nixians think they're getting obedient cannon fodder that occasionally shows flashes of useful primitive cunning. The Helios Federation thinks they're watching potential rebels against Nixian oppression. Neither of them understands what we really are. And what's that? The most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Humans who have been underestimated and given access to advanced technology. The display shifted to show another training session. A human squad, supposedly practicing basic maneuvers, was actually stress-testing Nixian shield technology. Every clumsy mistake was a carefully calculated probe of the system's weaknesses. How long until they realize what's really happening? Rivera asked. They won't, Sarah said confidently. Their psychological profiles are clear. Both sides are so convinced of their superiority that they'll rationalize everything we do as either primitive luck or simple adaptation. By the time they understand what we really are, it'll be too late. Throughout the solar system, humanity's plan was unfolding. Every human aboard alien vessels was a sensor, every interaction a data point, every lesson an opportunity to understand and improve upon technologies that had stagnated through centuries of rigid thinking. In a training room on the Europa facility, Maya finished her medical training session. As Verix left, satisfied with their primitive students' progress, Maya allowed herself a small smile. On her workbench lay the cellular regenerator, now operating 30% more efficiently thanks to her primitive understanding of quantum mechanics. Across the facility, other humans were doing the same, learning, adapting, improving. The Nixians had wanted soldiers. Instead, they were creating something far more dangerous, humans with a thorough understanding of advanced technology and a deep resentment of being underestimated. The war between the Nixians and the Helios Federation had been stalemated for centuries, but they had just introduced a new element into their careful balance of power: human ingenuity. And unlike their rigid, predictable warfare, humanity's way of fighting was anything but predictable. They thought they were teaching humans to fight their war. Instead, they were about to learn why. Throughout human history, the most dangerous opponent was never the strongest, but the one who had nothing to lose and everything to prove. The first sign that something was wrong came when 3 Nixian battleships simultaneously lost power near Saturn's rings. Their crystalline hulls darkened as emergency systems activated, internal diagnostics searching for the cause. They found nothing. Their systems simply stopped responding, as if the ships themselves had forgotten how to function. High Commander Xerix of the Nixian Empire's Third Fleet watched in growing concern as reports flooded in. More ships were going dark, their perfect formations breaking apart as they drifted in space. The pattern of failures made no sense until he realized it matched the deployment of human maintenance crews. Impossible, he whispered, his crystalline form vibrating with disbelief. They're primitives. They can barely understand our basic systems. On Earth, Sarah Chen watched the chaos unfold through quantum-entangled displays. Transmit the signal to activate Phase 2, she ordered. Around her, the combined command center of Earth's defense forces hummed with activity. They had spent months preparing for this moment, waiting until humanity's forces were perfectly positioned throughout both the Nixian and Helios fleets. "They're so arrogant they gave us maintenance access to their ships," Rivera remarked, standing beside her. "They never imagined we could comprehend their systems well enough to reprogram them." Sarah nodded. "The best part, every repair our crews performed over the last 3 months included a dormant quantum virus, one that we designed using their own programming language, making it invisible to their security systems." Across the solar system, human crews dropped their pretense of submission. Maya Rodriguez, still wearing her medical officer's uniform, sealed off the medical bay of the Nixian flagship. "Control, this is Team 7. We have secured the primary medical facility and all biological research data. You won't believe what we found in their restricted files." Similar reports came in from throughout the fleet. Humans who had been seemingly struggling to learn alien technology revealed their true mastery. Engineering crews who had been clumsily maintaining Nixian ships demonstrated their complete understanding of the systems. Combat teams who had been barely competent in training exercises suddenly executed perfect coordinated strikes. Their entire command structure is built on quantum encrypted communications, Sarah explained to the assembled Earth leadership. But they never changed their encryption protocols because they believed we couldn't possibly understand them. Maya's team found the original encryption keys in their medical database. They were studying how different species process complex mathematics. Rivera smiled grimly. "And now we can read every transmission they send." The Nixian response was exactly what they had predicted. High Command, unable to conceive that they had been outmaneuvered by primitives, assumed they were facing a surprise attack from the Helios Federation. They diverted ships to counter this imagined threat, leaving critical systems exposed. That's when the second phase began. Throughout the Nixian fleet, modified bacterial agents were released through environmental systems. The crystalline crews found their bodies becoming sluggish, their neural pathways clouded. Not lethal, but deeply incapacitating. Earth had turned the Nixians' own biology against them. "Incoming transmission from the Helios Federation," an operator announced. "They're offering an alliance." "Of course they are," Sarah said. "They think we're rebels against Nixian oppression. They don't realize we've been studying their systems too. Show them our response." The response was a demonstration. Every Helios ship that had received defective human-maintained equipment suddenly found their weapons systems reconfigured, not disabled, improved. Human engineers had spent months secretly upgrading their technology, showing just how much they had learned. A gift, the transmission read, "From humanity to our potential allies. We've taken the liberty of improving your targeting systems by 40%. Consider it a demonstration of what real cooperation could look like." The message was clear. Humans weren't just fighting back. They were innovating, improving, advancing beyond what either side had thought possible. High Commander Xerix watched in horror as his fleet fell into chaos. The primitives they had sought to exploit had not only mastered their technology, but had improved upon it in ways their own engineers hadn't considered. Worse, they had done it while maintaining a perfect facade of submission and ignorance. How? He demanded of his staff. How did they advance so quickly? The answer came from an unexpected source, a human transmission that cut through their encrypted channels with ease. "You made 3 mistakes," Sarah Chen's voice echoed through every Nixian ship. "First, you assumed technological superiority meant absolute superiority. Second, you gave us access to your technology while underestimating our ability to understand it. But your biggest mistake, you forgot that humans have spent their entire history learning to fight against superior forces." She paused, letting the message sink in. "We've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of asymmetric warfare. Every time you thought you were teaching us, we were learning far more than you intended. Every time you thought we were struggling to adapt, we were actually reverse engineering your systems. You wanted soldiers. Instead, you armed and trained your own opposition. Throughout the solar system, Human forces revealed their true capabilities. Ships that had been disabled by the quantum virus came back online, under human control. Weapon systems that had been clumsily maintained now operated with deadly precision. The careful balance of power between the Nixians and the Helios Federation had been completely upended. "We don't want to destroy either side." The transmission continued. "What we want is recognition, equality, a seat at the galactic table we've earned through innovation rather than conquest. The choice is yours, but choose carefully. You've already seen what humanity can do with just a fraction of our potential unleash." The galaxy was about to learn an important lesson. There's nothing more dangerous than underestimating humanity's capacity for adaptation, innovation, and determination. The war was about to change in ways neither side had imagined possible, and it was only the beginning. The conference room aboard the neutral station orbiting Mars was an unlikely place for galactic history to be made. Yet there they sat, crystalline Nixian diplomats, ethereal Helios representatives, and a human delegation that had, in the span of 6 months, fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy. Sarah Chen studied the alien delegations with carefully concealed amusement. The Nixians still sat with rigid posture, their crystalline forms reflecting the room's light, while the Helios representatives seemed to float slightly above their chairs, their energy-based forms rippling with barely contained anxiety. Both sides were trying to process how a primitive species had so thoroughly outmaneuvered them. "Let's review the terms," Commander Rivera began, his voice steady. The human delegation had insisted on hosting these negotiations in person, rather than through quantum-linked communications. They wanted their former superiors to look them in the eye as equals. "The Nixian Empire acknowledges humanity's sovereign status and right to self-determination," the crystalline diplomat stated, each word seemingly pulled from him with great effort. "In exchange for humanity's sharing of their innovations in our technology. The Helios Federation extends the same recognition," their representative added, energy form pulsing with each word, "and requests continuation of the technological cooperation humanity has demonstrated." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Both sides were desperately trying to maintain their dignity, while essentially begging for human expertise. The improvements humans had made to their technology during their brief exposure had demonstrated just how stagnant both civilizations had become. Additionally, Rivera continued, "Earth will serve as a neutral party in ongoing peace negotiations between your civilizations. Our unique perspective and proven ability to innovate will help broker a lasting peace that benefits all parties." The aliens shifted uncomfortably. Peace hadn't been their idea. Humanity had forced it upon them by demonstrating how vulnerability cooperation was superior to stagnant conflict. The human improvements to both sides' technology had proven that point dramatically. Maya Rodriguez, now officially recognized as one of Earth's leading experts in xenobiology, brought up a holographic display. "We've prepared a demonstration of further potential improvements to both Nixian crystalline technology and Helios energy manipulation systems. These advances are only possible through the combination of both your scientific foundations with human innovation." The display showed hybrid technologies that made both delegations lean forward in spite of themselves. Human engineers had taken the best aspects of both civilizations' technology and combined them in ways neither had considered possible. "Your civilizations have been locked in conflict for so long that you stopped truly innovating," Sarah explained. "You focused on perfecting existing systems rather than exploring new possibilities. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to see things differently, to combine ideas in new ways. And our greatest advantage," Rivera added, "was that you gave us access to advanced technology while underestimating our ability to understand and improve upon it. A mistake we trust won't be repeated." The threat was subtle but clear. Humanity had proven they could take control of both sides' military systems at will. The quantum virus they had planted was still dormant in ships throughout both fleets, a guarantee against future attempts at subjugation. "The terms are acceptable," the Nixian diplomat finally declared, followed quickly by the Helios representatives' agreement. As the delegations filed out to consult with their respective governments, Maya approached Sarah. "They still don't fully understand what happened, do they?" Sarah shook her head. "They think we outmaneuvered them through clever planning and stolen technology. They don't understand that we fundamentally changed how their civilization will have to operate moving forward, because we introduced something they've forgotten. Adaptation." River rejoined them. "Both sides became so focused on perfection that they forgot the importance of evolution, of trying new things, of learning from failure." "And now?" Maya asked. "Now they're about to experience something they haven't faced in centuries. Real competition," Sarah replied. "Not the sterile conflict they've been locked in, but the kind of innovation that comes from cooperation and challenge. They'll have to adapt, to think differently, to evolve." The three humans looked out the viewport at Mars hanging below them, its surface already showing signs of terraforming technology that combined all three civilizations' expertise. Humanity had turned a forced conscription into an opportunity not just for survival, but for revolution. In the decades that followed, the galaxy would change dramatically. The combination of Nixian crystalline technology, Helios energy manipulation, and human innovation led to advances that none of the civilizations could have achieved alone. The Great War that had seemed endless became a footnote in history, replaced by an era of unprecedented cooperation and development. Earth became a center of galactic innovation, its universities and research centers attracting beings from across known space. Humans, with their unique ability to approach problems from unexpected angles, became highly sought after as scientists, engineers, and problem solvers. But they never forgot the lesson of their first contact with alien life. True strength lies not in superior technology or military might, but in the ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to turn disadvantage into opportunity. The Nixians had wanted cannon fodder for their war. Instead, they had given humanity the keys to the galaxy. It was a mistake they would never forget, and one that ultimately transformed not just Earth, but all of known space. As Sarah Chen looked out at the transformed solar system years later, she remembered that first discovery of alien infiltration in Earth's networks. They had thought they were being clever, subtle, superior. Instead, they had awakened humanity's greatest strengths: our paranoia, our adaptability, and our absolute refusal to remain inferior. The galaxy had wanted soldiers. What they got instead was a revolution. And as humanity spread among the stars, they carried with them that most dangerous of combinations: advanced technology and the creativity to use it in ways no one else had imagined. It was the dawn of a new era, and humanity was leading the way, not through conquest or subjugation, but through innovation, adaptation, and the unshakable determination that had defined our species since we first looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them.